Hi, and welcome to How to Drink live from the How to Drink Bar. Hello. Hello, chat room. How many of you guys are in here? Hello. Hello, and welcome to the stream. Thank you for being a friend. Let me just move this around. Oh, 183 of us. My God, that's a lot of people. We are billions, says Ingenuity. How's the audio? Is it a little funky in here? Yeah, it's a bit. Cover your ears. Let's do that. Come on, stay there, baby. No, you don't want to do that for me? Yeah. Sorry about that. Well, it is what it is. Chat is Legion, good morning. Ben Grimm says, Ella. I don't know what that means. Thanks, Billy. It's 100% true. I'm coming into something I missed. So, I don't know how everybody's been and how I'm assuming everybody is coping with social distancing and quarantine. And it's just great to be able to hang out with all you guys here in my bar. What are we going to do today? Well, I think a lot, actually. It is too early to drink Slice of Devon. That's why today we're going to start by making some Orgeat or Orgeat. I actually had a friend who is a French native speaker, and she says it's pronounced Orgeat. And I swear that's got to be because there's different regional pronunciations in France. I thought I knocked a bunch of stuff over here. Oh, man. There we go. Just tidying up a little bit. So Orgeat, which is how I am usually going to pronounce it, although my pronunciations wobble. Coping, people are coping. I don't know what that means. Week 2.5, starting to lose it. Into the drinking man. Yeah. It felt appropriate. I gotta put some struts into this bar. What do you guys think about some home improvement streams? Because this thing is a little bit wobbly. We're gonna have to tighten that up. Not right this second, but... So Orgeat, for those of you who don't know, is a traditional almond-based syrup. And very importantly, it is the most important component in a drink called a Mai Tai. It's my favorite drink, and I haven't had one in a very long time, and it's just getting to be the beginnings of spring, and my flower box is growing some mint. Unfortunately, not yet big enough to be a garnish for Mai Tai. I may take a break and check, but I don't think we're going to be able to get that in there yet. But I felt like making a Mai Tai. Let's make some Orgeat. So how is everybody as I kind of go through the process here, setting up? The one thing I'm going to say, too, is that this induction cooktop that I've got here does have a fan, so it makes some noise when it's hot. Shocker, this blender also makes some noise at all times. Let's just check our camera angles and make sure that everything is working correctly. Okay, cool. We have a great shot right now of the edge of the cooker, but that's okay. We won't be using that shot for for making the Orgeat anyway. The overhead is on target. Look at that. Nice. Okay, cool. Did you hear that Disney released their official Dole Whip recipe? Well, that's just Big Diz trying to put me out of business, man. That's what that is. They saw this guy Greg. We got to shut him down. How are we going to get out ahead of it? We're going to release the real recipe. Oh, Jimwa, you noticed. This is my quarantine cut. I did this myself. It's a little more undercut than I was going for. I probably should have left a bit more on this side for the part, but it's by far the least bad haircut it's far from the worst haircut I've ever had, so I can't really complain. My wife was standing behind me in the bathroom like, don't do it! What are you doing? Stop! Dude, when the sides start getting long, I can't. I feel like I'm wearing a wool hat. This is the cheapest microphone I could find. This is a Fi-Fine, or is it FL? I don't know if it's FI or FL, but Fi-Fine USB little cardioid mic. And it's, loving the shirt. Nice, thank you. It's a real cheapy one. It was like $30, but I've bought so many of them that I think I've driven the price up because I bought 2 more last night and they were like 40 something. But they're still really cheap. This is one of the first things I want to upgrade. There's 2 things I'm working on upgrading the studio. The sound, that's complicated because to do that I need to get a audio interface. And then I want to, and then the microphones become much more expensive because like $40 is crazy cheap. Going to like shotgun mics, which is what I really want to use in here. It'll be like $400 a microphone minimum. And I have probably 2 in here. 1, like 3 for starters. I'll probably need more than that very shortly. Yeah, it's a little echoey in here, Funk Jesus. I know that. I should put... it's weird because normally when I shoot in here, the regular show, I'm on a lav. For a lot of reasons, I resist going to a lavalier for live streaming, but the lav doesn't pick up quite as much room sound, but this does. Did you do the back of the wall yourself? This bar wall? Yeah, well, I mean, not myself. I mean, it's my... excuse me. I designed this in SketchUp, actually, to fit the space. And then we built it, me and Stefano and Meredith built it over a couple of days. We did the first build, and then I kept working on it for like the rest of the week to finish it. And then we shot that day. It was crazy. It's a little echoey, though. I don't know. I'd like it to be a little closer mic'd, a little drier. Yeah, and then the bar top was probably the most expensive component. This is a slab I bought from a mill of walnut, actually. This is like super thick, live edge, just some bark left on it when we got it. Walnut that I cut up and planed and sanded into these counters and these pieces. And then there's actually a shelf over there that I used to use for my computer, but now I've got those on arms. And that's there's a couple of scrap pieces that I still have lying around. I have received a Hype Train level 1 emote. Thank you. It's a monkey with... It's the Hype Chimp. I don't know what his deal is. He goes choo choo. Oh, those are teeth. I didn't know. I thought those were like flies in his mouth. Looking well rested. Thanks, John. Thanks. I got to bed at a semi-reasonable hour. You know what's funny is I had to take the bottles off of that last night for a photo shoot that I had to do. And setting up today, I was like, you know, there's more practical things I could be using these shelves for these days since I'm in here alone. I don't have somebody who can hand me glassware and stuff like that off camera. So, if you're new... Oh, God. Let me pour myself a glass of water while we're here. Ooh. Okay, so if you're new to the channel, this is How to Drink live from the How to Drink bar. Oh wait, we're 1 minute away from that probably, huh? Shoot, this is not working right. I'm sorry guys, live production. You think that water was suspicious, huh? 233 people, good damn, that's great. That's great, everybody. Hey Twitch, the one thing I would really love it if I could pop out of my, creative production panel thingy is the stats. Those are for some reason locked into a horizontal bar. And I need them in a little bug somewhere that I can move. Okay, we're not making coffee. We're gonna make orgeat. Orgeat is a traditional. We should make coffee, but and thank you, I am Soko, by the way. I have a computer just out of frame here that I'm looking at you guys at. Another upgrade I'd like to make is to move all of that onto a teleprompter so I can make direct eye contact with you and read comments at the same time. But, you know, money. So, we're making orgeat today. Orgeat is a traditional French syrup. It's funny, too, like, the etymology of the word orgeat is that, if I'm not mistaken, it comes from oat. There's an implication in its name that it was once made from oats, oat water, but it's definitely almond orgeat. You can make other nuts into orgeats, and I don't even know if that's really the most technical term, but like when people make a pistachio syrup, they call it a pistachio orgeat or a walnut orgeat. I think a walnut orgeat would be very bitter. I guess you could have this on waffles, but it's not that kind of a syrup, honestly. And in truth, what it really is a sweetened almond milk that we're going to make from scratch. There's a lot of different techniques to get this job done. I actually use a mechanical separation technique normally, and I'll explain when we get to that step why I'm skipping it here in favor of something a little bit more manual. So, you know what? Sometimes I just cannot clear my throat. Let's start by figuring out how many almonds we have, and excuse me here. Let's just dampen a rag. Sorry, a dish towel. Thomas Keller would be very upset with me if he heard me saying a rag. We do not use rags in the kitchen. We use dish towels. And when we need a new one, we like to have a little fun. We'll say, throw me a baseball. A baseball, that's the term we use in the kitchen for a new dish towel. Okay. So I've got my kitchen scale here and this big old bowl. How does that look in the close-up? I can't operate that close-up. Yeah, that's all right. We can just see that. Okay, and we're just going to tear this. Nope, unit. Grams is fine. Grams is fine. Tear. Come on. Zero out. There we go. Let's just see how many almonds I have left here. $478 grams of almond. If you guys could help me remember that, because I'm not going to take notes. So if I ask somebody, how many almonds did we have? Just let me remember 470 grams of almonds. Thank you. Okay. So tear that again. Oh, and then we'll do this. I don't know if I'm going to need this number. We will see. So the first step in making orgeat is we're going to take our almonds and add them to a blender. Check this shit out, guys. What? Okay. Now, we already know that was 478 almonds. I don't really care how many it is anymore. So again, geez, I keep hitting the unit when I mean tear. I got like 3 of these kitchen scales and they've got their buttons in different places. Tear, man, tear. Do it. There we go. Okay, I really don't, I don't normally measure this water that I'm about to add. I just want to know how much there is in there. I may care. But basically, I'm just going to add enough water here to cover the almonds. And maybe a little bit more than that, because this can get really thick. This will get really thick. Now, a lot of your recipes for orgeat are going to tell you that it takes a huge amount of soaking time, that you got to pulverize these almonds, crush them, and then soak them in water overnight to really let them leach and blah, 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 blah. You know, let all of their oils and fats and juices come out. Almonds are pretty dry. Probably if you think about eating an almond, it never occurred to you that they were juicy, but this wouldn't work if they weren't a little bit juicy. So we're going to blend the hell out of these suckers into we're going to shortcut that. I want to do this a lot faster. Oh, how much water was that? A great question. 824 grams of water. We're making nut milk with my nut milk bag. We'll get to that part later. Minus lid. Thank you, guys. You are so right. It was 824 minus the lid. Stand by. Yeah, that number sounded right. Wrong. 590. 590. So what was it? 478 and 590 so far. We may or may not decide to care about that 590. I usually don't, but I felt like let's just make a note. Okay. So I'm going to turn that blender on in a second, and it's going to be loud, so I won't be able to do much more talking. I'm going to blend these kind of to insanity, and I wish I had a camera I could quickly maneuver onto this thing, but I don't. Sorry. But, K-Horror, you just got here and heard nut milk bag. That's right. That's an interesting way of thinking about that phlogiston, 112 grams of water. No, I mean, it's 590 grams of water and 478 grams of almonds, because we're going to take the almonds out of this. And so we'll still have, hopefully, most of that 590 grams of water, but we'll measure. Oh, God, I wish I could. Thank you, KKG Scorpio. So let's blend, and unfortunately, you know, this is going to be loud, so watch your ears. Your freaking ears! not so bad. So what we have here is our almond slop. We're gonna let that sit for a couple of minutes while I answer some questions. What I was saying before is that most of your orgeat recipes involve a lot of soak time. Like, oh, cover the almonds, let them sit in the fridge for a day, do. I ain't got time for that. I try to do this stuff as quick as I can. I am gonna let it sit for a few minutes here just because why not? But in truth, I usually don't. I don't know if it makes a difference, honestly. At this point, we've destroyed those almonds in water. There is probably still some transfer happening from our almond particles, but so much of this has already been done for us by mechanical separation, right? Now, I am going to strain this with a nut milk bag, which I have right here. Nut milk bag is, if you don't have one, you might want to get one. It's a handy little thing. It's basically like a super hardcore cheesecloth that you can reuse for making nut milks and the like. This one's a little wet. Oh, it's just water from the... Okay, that's fine. It's just water. My favorite cocktail is probably the one that we're eventually going to make today, the Mai Tai. So what I normally do, though, is you got to get your particles... Somehow or another, you've got to get your particles separated from your liquid. And we're going to do it with a nut milk bag today. What I frequently do, and if you watch on my YouTube channel, there's a very old video of me making orgeat. I often use this thing I have called a Acme Juicerator 5000, which is like a 1970s juicer. It's basically, it's kind of like the same mechanism as a wood chipper. There's a heavy rotating mass with a grinder on the surface of it, and then around the outside of that, like a screen. So everything hits this rotating mass and gets flung against the screen like a centrifuge. It's very good at pulling every drop of liquid out of something like this. Yeah. Excuse me. I feel great, guys. Just the morning for me. I'm not going to do that for a couple of reasons. One, it is loud. Two, it wobbles pretty intensely sometimes. Like if it overweights, if you have too much stuff in there, it can go off balance, and then you have to like hold on to it and tackle it because it tries to do a whole lot of stuff. Eat a banana. Banana helps with that. That's interesting. And with my bar being a little less stable than I want it to be, and doing this on camera, I thought, you know what, that could be a real disaster. So let's do it the manual way. The other reason is that most people don't have an Acme Juicerator 5000 from the 70s, although you can get them for like 30 or 40 bucks on eBay last time I checked. They're really cheap. It's actually a design that is still made. I think Krups makes it now or something. I've heard that they don't make it quite as indestructibly, as is true of many things. My father-in-law had a Vitamix from, he also has a Vitamix. I got that juicerator from him. It was in the basement. He doesn't use it. This Vitamix, he also has one of the original Vitamixes, which is crazy. It's got like a pour spout on the side here, but it's got a reverse switch on it so that like this thing is spinning and then you can flip a switch to reverse the blades, like on the fly. It like, every time you do it, it's like, doosh! It like jumps and shoots sparks. There's like so much torque on that motor to just like, yeah, just reverse the polarity, flip it. It's crazy. Okay. I feel like that's probably enough soak time. Would more yield more nut milk? Maybe. See, it's funny, you say your hot coffee helps you. In my case, well, coffee helps. I had a glass of orange juice. Orange juice messes me up. I don't know why. The cold brew Jaeger, I like it a lot, actually. I think it's pretty great. I like Jägermeister too, and I like coffee. Cold brew Jaeger is pretty great. That's what I was doing an Instagram post with that last night. What's in the blender so far? So far in the blender is 478 grams of almonds and 590 grams of water blended to a paste. Have I made a video using Jaeger? I haven't made a video using... No, I haven't. Not specifically. So once again, it probably doesn't matter, but just for science sake, we're going to measure how much nut milk we're about to end up with here. I guess I kind of want that actually zeroed out, yeah. So I should have done that as a demo, as a test. A lot of people have asked me about that, and I've read that some people have had good experiences buying almond milk. My answer to that is that the stuff that we're about to make here tastes much more strongly of almonds than almond milk. Like, almond milk is designed to taste pretty neutral. So, and I think, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think a couple of the recipes for orgeat that build on using almond milk also, that I've seen online anyway, these recipes, also tend to call for the use of almond extract. Okay, we're just going to put this in our milk bag here. Come on! I really want you to get out of there. I got a bar spoon. Let's try and get it all in there. Hold yourself open. Alright, let's grab a bar spoon and see if we can get the rest of this out. Actually, it should probably be that one. It's hard to tell from where I'm at, but does that little pip look like it's in focus? Should be. Okay. All right, here we go. That's about as much as I'm gonna get out of there without. Sometimes I'll do a flush. I'll do like an extra rinse of water to get the rest of that out. We can do that. But nah, let's just skip that. All right, close up our bag. And now it's just an issue of doing this. Where's my hands? Your hands are gonna get filthy doing this. And if you happen to be switching and tech directing your own show, you may not necessarily, but you can see. I hope you can see. I don't know. Can you see that running in there? Yeah. Just squeezing it all out. Hello and good afternoon, Califilla. Well, I will twist it, Khar, but not yet. I think it is, William. I really do. You got a wife or something helping you? No, all alone. Wife is with the kid upstairs. I mean, I suppose if I needed to yell for something, I can, but... That's a great question, actually, Cloned Prince. It is outside of the purview of my knowledge. Something like something David Wondrich would know. And this is why I usually do this with a juicer. It takes so much time. Tobane's mugs, yeah. Sometimes you really gotta massage your nut milk bag and play with it a little bit, get things moving around there. Yep, I will put the, normally I put the pulp in a juicer. I explained earlier why I'm not doing that right now. The wife's favorite drink is a Tom Collins. What kind of vodka would go best with blackberry liquor? Just any vodka would be fine. Just gotta massage the bag a little. Oh, I was like, what's that thing in the shot? And I didn't realize it's a picture-in-picture. What does my wife think of my career as an internet bartender? It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. No, I'm not going to open a bar. Fuck Jesus. I mean, I don't have any intention to. Look, am I telling you that, like, if I turn into, like, the Guy Fieri of alcohol, then I will definitely license my name to some places and supervise menu creation. I'm not going to go work in a bar. I literally, I think it's an incredibly great and wonderful profession. I'm lazy, man. That's a lot of work. Like a real job. I do not have a day job, William Camarn. I used to, but I haven't had a day job in about a year. And even when I had a day job, I didn't have a day job. I was a freelance video editor. Demerara rum is a rum made from Demerara sugar. What is Demerara sugar? Demerara sugar, it basically means, the long and short of it is that there is a mixture of refined sugar and molasses in it. So it's going to be sort of between a Jamaican style and a Spanish style. Or that quantum space, that sounds right too. I mean, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Come on, juicy baby. Juicy baby. That keeps squeezing your bag, you know? Squeeze it. Now we're really getting to the core of the nut here. Really massage this sucker. It's like, you know, it's nasty work. Now, slapping it doesn't work. It doesn't like that. That's, you know, because it doesn't really, it's going to make a mess. Starting to get everything on. I leave the skin on. I don't think it's necessary. You'll get a different result. I just want to add as much flavor to this stuff as possible. I don't know what a tofu press is, Funk Jesus. Maybe I should look into that. You can describe your job as, I make drinks for people I can't see. This is the most nut milk I've seen one man work out of his sack. Well, Thrifty, stick around, because I'm a pro. Pork chops with applesauce. How do you treat the wood you've built in your bar? I don't, well, I do. I use block oil. So it's basically open, it's untreated. I haven't put any varnish or urethane on it. I just, every once in a while, I'll sand it and hit it with more and more block oil, mineral oil. No, sugar in the raw is just a colloquialism for Demerara sugar. There might be, I've looked this up before and I kind of forget now, there might be like some very minute arcane difference between turbinado sugar and demerara. They both have some component of molasses in them, and one of them, it's there because it was never washed out, and I think one of them it's there because it was put back in. The end result is basically the same. Nah, I didn't get that buck. I don't hunt, William. My grandfather-in-law got that one back in 1956, it says, but nobody wanted it. They were going to toss it. And I said, you can't put that on the curb, you crazy? So that's a family relic, an heirloom. What would you say is your favorite piece of historic trivia regarding alcohol? That's a good question. The name is Arabic. Alcohol. You know why we call them spirits? I like this one. Because people didn't know how they worked. And so they just thought, oh yeah, that's the potion that makes you possessed by spirits. It's a bottle of spirits. Invite spirits into you. There were these archaeologists in Ireland, and they kept finding these burial mounds, but they never found anything. I'm a pretty good cook, I think. They never found anything in them. They were like these really specifically made burial pits. They had clay lining in them to make them, you know, they were to make them watertight and everything like that, but nobody was ever buried in them. There was no grave goods or anything like that. They were just filled with weird rocks. Really not much else. And then, supposedly, this is an article I read, one night at the pub, those archaeologists had some, you know, alcohol-inspired brainstorm. Oh my God, they're brewing pits. They were making beer, like, you know, a couple thousand years before we thought they could make beer. And they actually went out to one of the sites and made some beer in it. Is the pheasant still for sale? I don't believe it was ever for sale, MacNewts. All right, now we get to the twist. Whoa, Bill! Making it rain over here, Bill. Thank you, Bill. So actually, I was on Binging with Babish. 2 Christmases ago, I helped him make some Christmas cocktails. I'd be happy to work with him again. I think that'd be really fun. Brad Leone, too. Brad's like a local guy. He comes down here to where I live to fish, because I don't live in the city anymore. I've been talking to the Whiskey Tribe. We wanted to do some tele-interviewing stuff, you know, during quarantine. And then I think that, like, last I heard, they were like, you know, we can't actually go to our studio. So. There's still a lot in here, and basically my level of patience is going to dictate how much I want to do this. The beach videos. You mean the ones from my in-laws' pool? I don't think so, honestly. I might do more of those drinks, but I don't think we're gonna do that setup again. That was a real that was a real creation of necessity. I feel like it's, you know, I can tell you guys the truth. We're all friends here. So we didn't used to have our own location for making this show. I did originally do the show from my living room in New York City. Very quickly, it became apparent that, like, that's a nightmare. We can't do that anymore. So we used to rent a studio space in Hoboken. And it costs money. And I had a client, a sponsor that we'd worked with a couple times. They wanted to do a few episodes, but they didn't have enough money to rent the studio space in Brooklyn. And I said, you know, it's summer, and these are summer drinks. Basically, I convinced them to let us shoot it at my in-laws' backyard for nothing. Well, I mean, the sponsor still paid, but I didn't have to rent the location. So that was that's a little behind the curtain action there. A tofu press or cheese press would take the manual labor out of this. Well, actually, I mean, the thing I usually use is a centrifuge, basically. The juicer I use is basically a centrifuge. Why do you see whiskey written like that so many times? It's because in Scotland, they use it with an E, and in Ireland, they spell it without the E. And when you write it that way, you're just saying, like, the unified world of whiskey, not any specific, you know, if I put, or maybe, I'm sorry, maybe it's Scotland that doesn't use the E, I forget. But yeah, if you wrote it without the E, someone might think you're excluding that region. If you wrote it with the E, you'd be excluding the other, so. Hello, Mickey DK. It was for Ireland, put it in for marketing, maybe. Have you ever heard of a cocktail that is nearly equal parts Bombay, vanilla, head card? No, I never heard of that. Somebody was asking me if you can use the pulp that's left over for anything, and the answer is I don't know. I could see maybe making almond cookies with it, but remember, we're stripping out a lot of the flavors right now with this water. I'm sure there's still plenty left in there, but... this is a nut milk bag filled with pulverized almonds and water, and we are making essentially almond milk, but a totally unrefined, full flavor, full fat almond milk, and we're going to come to that later. Yeah, I don't know. I've never made marzipan, but possibly. So the thing you got to be careful of, and this is why I avoid twisting for as long as I can, when you start to twist, bits of pulp tend to work their way out of the top or whatever. We really want to try and not have any of that wind up in our juice here. I don't know. I think it would work well with macadamia nuts. Yes, we're going to make some more Orgeat. Isn't that in the title or in the announcement? I think I put it in the stream announcement. What would I fat wash a rye whiskey with? Brown butter? I don't know. I don't do much fat washing, to be honest. I think it's a technique that, well, I don't eat bacon. So I used to, and like the one thing I would love to do a fat wash with is Benton's bacon. I'd love to do the Benton's Old Fashioned, but I don't eat bacon, so I can't. What was Orgeat used for before the Mai Tai? It was used as a milk replacement, actually, because we didn't have refrigeration. If I ever made a cocktail that was underwhelming, I don't know about that. That's a good question. Why did you choose to be an online bartender? I didn't choose it, it chose me. So I guess I'll just tell the quick story, the quick version. I went to film school. I always had an interest in making cocktails. I was always a cocktail guy. I was never a beer guy. I liked making cocktails. I kept getting more and more into cocktails. I went to cocktail bars, like good ones. I learned a lot about drinking. Went to film school, wanted to be a director. Found out you kind of got to be connected before you go to film school to become a director. Got out of film school, and I fell into, thanks to the good graces of a very good friend of mine, editing. I got into editing, and so for years I was an editor, freelance editor, making basically social media content and advertisements, commercials, some sports documentaries, if you can believe it. It's funny because I'm not a sports guy. And then made this in my living room with a friend the first 7 episodes. I was like, as a reel to get tabletop directing work for food commercials. So before I went to film school, I had a little job on a film set as a set PA at a place called Michael Schramm and Company where they made food commercials, like close-ups. And so I had some interest and awareness of how that process worked, the tabletop world. Okay, that's all I'm going to get out of here with my hands. Now, there's still more in there, so if you had some kind of a mechanical separator, I would encourage you to use it. Anyway, I made the show. Excuse me, I'm going to rinse my hands off. Hello. Made the show in my living room, and we had 7 episodes, because I could shoot 7 episodes in one day at that time. That's the reason why we had 7. It was one day of shooting. And another friend who I was working with, he was an associate producer at a place, loved it, thought it was really good, said, you got to do more of that. I said, yeah, but I don't have a camera. And then he said, but I can get us a free camera because I work other places and I have a friend who's a cinematographer with a camera. We borrowed his camera forever. Now that guy shoots the show. And unfortunately, we have no measurement. This is what I was afraid was going to happen. So we're just going to wing it. And, you know, the show's building and growing and building and growing. And like, so all the drains run through this room. Probably a toilet, yes. I've said that I gotta get like a light up there that says live or something like that to let people know. Like put it on the doors to all the bathrooms and stuff. That's just, I mean, it was pretty dry. I mean, there's a little bit more in there. There's just, yeah, it was supposed to be a portfolio booster, Nick. And it was supposed to be like a director's reel for tabletop work, and it wasn't. It just wasn't that, it turns out, and I didn't really know how to make that. And, you know, it turned into its own thing. Stefano was like, you got to make more of this. You got to make more. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. He made me make more, and we made more. Not that I didn't want to do it. I wanted to. I just didn't have the money or the camera. And so we used to do the batch shooting. Hang on a second. Anyway, long story short, it was unrelated. So, yes, some things were great on the channel. Butterbeer came out, and that's always weird when you're working a gig, when you're like an editor at someone else's job, and like over the course of starting work and end of the day, you're just like, hey, I got 1 million views on this other thing. Like, it's just hard to stay focused on the job I'm supposed to be doing for you when like, this has never happened. This is crazy is happening. And then for my wife's job, we had to move out of New York City. We were obligated to by law. Made the call to keep her job, move it out of the city. And then that changed how much, a lot of people ask like, oh, how do you become a full-time creator? How do you become a full-time YouTuber? And I'm like, well, the first thing you should do is try to reduce your expenses. Because moving out of the city, of course, was a lot cheaper to live. And that made doing the show full-time as my only income a lot more attractive because, 1, my overhead was lower, and 2, now I had to commute to the city to edit, and it's like, you know, an edit day in the biz. I always am envious of people who only have to work 8-hour days. It's a 10-hour minimum is considered normal for anything in film production. 12 is pretty common for on-set work. But for post-production, 10 hours is the norm. And, you know, I had like a 2-hour commute on each side of that. And I was just basically like, okay, I'm not going to see my kid. Ever. She's not a teacher, but she's everything all right up there? Okay. You know we're recording sound, right? Okay. Yeah, anyway, so we had to move. Ironically now, of course, like, now she commutes a different commute, and she's like, I don't know if I like this job anymore. Yeah, so that's how it happened, basically. Just kind of made a commitment to, I mean, I took like you know, a lot of people, the other thing I tell people is that, like, when you compare, you know, this is a little crass, but like, I won't talk raw numbers, but I think I took a 70% pay cut when I made How to Drink my full-time job, when I stopped accepting freelance edit work. And it was only about a month and a half ago that it was like finally at a place where it was like, oh, okay, cool. We're like, this is basically almost back to where I was. And then on March 13th, the world, you know, shit got real, and CPMs dropped through the floor. That's basically how advertising runs. And I agree with that. Yeah, I'm trying to stay. I think that's the other thing too. Is like, you know, look, obviously, is this a great job? It's a pretty good job. It's pretty cool because, like, I am now location independent. I used to say that, like, man, this sucks. I got into a career where the only two places I can live are basically LA and New York, and they're the most expensive places in the universe. Yep, cost per mil, 1,000 views. So CPMs are like through the damn floor right now on YouTube. And it's actually interesting. I was reading, this is totally off topic, but I was just reading an article about why. You think it's because people aren't spending money on advertising, but it's actually because more people are watching. You know, it just has to do with the way the marketplace works. There's more billboards. Your face is your eyeballs are actually the thing that gets sold, not like, oh, I want to buy a spot on Greg's show. It's more like, I want to buy viewers who are like Greg's viewers, and they happen to be in various places. And since there's so many more of them, the value of your face has gone down in a really weird, counterintuitive way. Okay, yeah, exactly. Supply is way, 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 way up. It's not, oh, I'm glad to have you, Brandolph. It's awesome. No, I'm not begging, guys. I just think it's an interesting topic that a lot of people don't know about. A lot of people don't understand. I think that this is, this is live. It's fine. I think that understanding how media gets sold and how it gets paid for and who pays for it and where the money comes from and how ad dollars work I think it's just a good thing to know. I think it just changes the way you understand what you're seeing on TV and why it's there, or, you know what I mean? Like, dude, Fuller Audio, man. So when I went to the School of Visual Arts, and I was like one of the kids there who was like advocating for a sound design track. Because like it's all film major, but they have like tracks. You're an editor track, a director track, or a writer track. And now they have a sound track and a producing track. Concentration. I was advocating for the soundtrack, and then they came out with the thesis requirements for the soundtrack, and it was like, this is not doable. You had to do production sound and sound design on 2 other kids' thesis films. And I was like, I know how post-production works on this. There's not enough hours. It's not possible because everybody's going to be at the 11th hour. There's no way to do sound design on 2 thesis films at the same time. There's no way that you could stagger your schedule. It's just not going to work like that. And then the other thing about it, it changes how you consume media. But then the other thing about it is I had an internship at a place called Buttons NY, a post house in the city. And I worked there full time as an intern for a while, for a summer at least. And it was apparent to me that, like, oh, nobody makes any money doing, like, any at all. There were like a couple of sound designers who were up in there, and they had clients that they had brought from other places. They were just like basically just using the space. I was like, how do you become you? And they were like, and then like at the same time, there was like a lot of interns making $0, and then there was a couple of staff people making like, you know, a little bit better than minimum wage. And I was like, this is a very expensive place. Like this is, and like doing it for years on the hopes that somebody would give them a shot at being a sound designer. It seemed like a way to not make a living at all. As awful as this is, I mean, like, you know, you got to pay the bills, right? Like that's a real thing. So what we have here is, let's show you guys up in the overhead. This is our, get in the center of the frame there. This is our Orgeat. Let's try that one more time. Let's do the Rachel Ray. There it is. So this is our almond juice. You'll notice it's real frothy. And that's not just because, you know, we've agitated it and we've been working it. It's because it has a very high fat and acid. Like there's a lot of fatty acids in here that you won't get in a store-bought almond milk. Your almond milk at the store, they're going to get rid of all of that because it separates. Okay, so, and that's something that I like to leave it because it's a feature of doing this yourself. But when you know, a commercially available one won't have that. So if you're gonna make it yourself, I think leave it in. I think leave it in to differentiate it and make it like, unique. You know, there's things you can do that a person who's making a food. Did you do it for me? Yeah. All right, so how many